Time to talk Florida State recruiting. Jaime Ffrench, DJ Pickett, Javion Hilson, and more.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into another episode of Locked On Seminoles. I'm your host, Brian Smith. In today's episode, we are going to dive into recruiting. First off, though, thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. You can get this podcast wherever you get them for free and on YouTube, and we are happy to have you back in. So please hit that like button and smash that thumbs up and all the other fun stuff you can do to share this. We would truly appreciate it. So today we are going to get right into all the recruiting updates from Battle Miami. Prospects from across the country came in from California, New York, Virginia, everywhere. And then, of course, a plethora of players, Georgia, Alabama, Florida. So let's just start off right now with LinkedIn is our sponsor today, by the way. Thank you very much for LinkedIn being the recruiting sponsor across this network. It is an awesome opportunity to get to Battle, though. This is just so much fun. I had to really kind of pick and choose which places to go for interviews. All four fields that have Power 5 kids on them. So first off, I want to talk about Jaime Ffrench. He's the first kid that I interviewed. He was with SFE this weekend. That's going to be his main team on 7-on-7 this year. And they had the first game. So it was pretty easy. Hadn't seen Jaime in a little bit, been a couple of months. He was his same chipper self. Florida State, Miami, and Ohio State are at the top three right now. Of course, he's at Mandarin High School. It is in Jacksonville, and he is teammates with one Mr. Tramell Jones. And to put it mildly, that kind of helps, needless to say, because that's his quarterback, and he is committed to Florida State Seminoles. With that being stated, in my opinion, Jaime is the top wide receiver in the class of 25, and many others in the recruiting service world believe the same thing. It's going to be a battle. And for the backdrop, he was committed to Alabama. Nick Saban obviously departed. And then also departing would be one Mr. Jaime Ffrench from the University of Alabama commitment. Right afterwards, Norvell swooped in with somebody, I forget which guy, but one of the other coaches on the staff. They visited, and they've been recruiting him anyway. But Jaime confirmed with me face-to-face that Florida State is squarely in the top three. Obviously, having your quarterback and buddy right there is kind of important, but he'll be at Florida State, and this is going to be a process. He doesn't have his visits lined up, and he's not really worried about doing it. He went to Miami this weekend because we were in South Florida. Since he was down there, a whole bunch of people went, but he's getting ready to go to Ohio State as well and just kind of re-up his recruitment. Florida State, I don't know when his next visit will be, nor does he. He said he doesn't really have anything else planned. Ohio State was the most likely. But again, getting Ffrench on campus and having him in the mix as many times as possible is important. Norvell and his staff never let up anyway. And right now, I would imagine they're the most likely landing spot for him. Still a long way to go, and the offer list will be extreme. Jaime can pick up the phone and go wherever he wants, but that's a special player. He was dominant, once again, not real surprising at Battle. Nobody really covers him one-on-one on a consistent basis. He's just that kind of player. So with that being stated, let's get into a couple other kids that were there and some updates, and then just some of the things that I saw in terms of all the players there. First off, DJ Pickett. Everybody asks about DJ. He's a kid I've known since 8th grade, just like Jaime. Rarest of the rare. He's 6'3.5", and he was literally playing corner for California Power 7-on-7. The game that I watched, he literally had 0 times that teams threw at him. I don't blame them. He makes a lot of plays. The only time he was around the ball, he got in for 1 rep that I saw standing right behind him, and they got to about the 5-yard line, and they put him in at receiver. He shook the guy in front of him, ran a slant, and scored pretty easily. He shook the guy so bad it wasn't even competitive. But again, it doesn't really matter where you put him in. Miami, Florida State, Georgia, everybody in the free world is recruiting him. I don't think there's going to be too many players that get more recruiting attention than one Mr. DJ Pickett. I will say this now from talking to him several times over the last few years and talking to him again this weekend. This will be a very long and drawn out recruiting process. I expect DJ to have at least 3 or 4 official visits. June, he may save one. I was actually just texting with his dad. I'm going to do something with them on the whole family and their family football history. His uncle played for the Rams in the Super Bowl, etc. Fastest team on turf. It's a tremendous athletic family. So DJ may be the most gifted of them all. And to say that, considering you've got family history like he does, is quite something else. Next, I want to talk a little bit about Tramell. He was the quarterback for South Florida Express. I hadn't seen him since he played in the game at Monarch when Mandarin won in the playoffs. Obviously, again, he is the quarterback that is with Jaime Ffrench. And the things that I've noticed, he's a little bit bigger and stronger. And I asked him, and he said he's up to 197 pounds. He's a very athletic kid that can move around in the pocket and make plays. He can run, but he prefers to stay in the pocket or just extend the play. But arm strength is up. Even in the last couple months, I would say he's improved his strength. He's just at that age where he's able to put on some bulk. He said that he is trying to do everything he can to get up to 210 pounds, give or take, by this season. That's only 13 more pounds, but when you're trying to do it in finite terms, it's interesting to see how he does it, how he looks, how much of it is muscle mass, etc. But he's a determined young man. The 2 things that I noticed, again, number 1 is just pure arm strength. That never really goes out of style. And then number 2, he made more throws in the middle of the field. For those you don't know, in 7-on-7, members of the media can stand like right behind the quarterback. It's like looking right down the gun barrel. And there were a couple of throws when he released the football. I'm like, I'm not sure about this one, because he was trying to fit it in a small window, and he made some of those throws. Now, that doesn't mean that he's the perfect quarterback or anything like that. But that's one of the things, ironically, that I saw from Luke Cromahawk last spring when I saw him playing for Team Dimes at a similar tournament. And to be honest with you, that's the next level stuff. Anybody can throw to the perimeter and hit the one-on-one throws. Can you throw past the linebacker and in front of the safety and with the corner trailing? Like, it's a hodgepodge. You got one guy for you and like 3 of them, and put it on the money. Those are the guys that go on to be very successful in college and sometimes also professionally. He's improved the arm to get it there, and the timing, I think, is better now. He still has a long way to go like every other quarterback, because that is a lifelong learning skill. But as a class of 25 recruit for the Noles, I don't think that there's any doubt Tramell's a really good player, and he's somebody that I think Florida State is lucky to have in their recruiting class. Get him right after Luke Cromahawk, 1-2, guys that can move the pocket, can make plays with their feet, but have the arm strength to throw to the perimeter or over the middle and make a dime throw with some velocity. Those guys don't grow on trees. I personally think that he's a little bit underrated. Some other guys don't in the recruiting industry don't like him as much as me. But I was standing right behind him watching some of his throws. So I like him quite a bit. Next up, I went over in the middle of the day on Saturday. There was a 5-on-5 padded tournament that California Power was hosting down here in South Florida, and they had kids from all over the country. One of them was Javion Hilson. He's the kid that recently committed to Florida State, Cocoa High School, elite player, pass rusher. One of the first reps that I saw, actually, when I walked up, they just started, and he just blew by a guy. And he's a pure 7 technique, 5 technique guy that will play outside the tackle, bend the shoulder, get underneath, and get up the field. That's something you just can't teach. There's some God-given ability with that. Here's the measurables and what you need to know about the backstory with this kid. 6'3", 225 pounds, give or take. Very humble. A kid that's not always played D-end. Ironically, when he was younger, he was one of the bigger kids in his grade, I guess. They'd played him on like offensive line, and he transferred because he wanted to play D-end. He ends up at Cocoa. One of the guys that was around at the tournament told me that, like, this is a kid that on Friday nights when other kids would go to the basketball games, whatever, to hang out, he would go work out. He was the kid who was always trying to get better. He has a definitive focus to play football. Whenever you find kids like that, it's a bonus. And then you combine it with somebody like Hilson in terms of his physical traits. You can't teach it because he has the length, the first step quickness that you're looking for, and just a tenacious mentality. He's already got some pretty good hand movements to kind of keep guys off of him, and he'll use a spin or a dip or a rip, whatever kind of move you would think of from a basic terminology kind of situation. But I don't really worry about that. I know he'll go up another level anyway, even if he didn't have those once he gets to Florida State. But when I asked him after the tournament about Florida State, why, and all that. He just said he had a great relationship. He had a great feeling with Florida State, and he was a kid that just really liked the love that he got from the Florida State program, and he was comfortable. At the end of the day, you could make an argument that comfort is the number one reason that a young man and or his family will pick a college football program. If you're not comfortable, why would you go to School X, Florida State, or anybody else? Well, Hilson made it very clear that his level is extremely high with Florida State. They've done a great job. Now, he's still going to get recruited. Florida and everybody else are still going after him. Not surprising, but at the same time, I expect him to end up at Florida State when all is said and done. Zaire Addison, also with California Power, plays at Sumner High School just south of Tampa. He's a kid I've mentioned before on this show and probably will several times. Moving forward, he was originally a defensive lineman and a basketball kid. Excuse me. He has transitioned to O-line. He's played it for a couple of years. He got beat on a few reps, which is pretty common in these kinds of competitions. They're not in pads. It's certainly a defensive line advantage most of the time. But his foot quickness, his power, Zaire's up to 275 now. He is getting better and better. I think he'll end up as one of the top 10 offensive tackles in the class nationally by all four of Rivals, 247, ESPN, and On3. You can't teach the athleticism. He played some D-line in this competition as well and won reps there as well. But I don't think there's any way you can teach the physical skills that he has watching him move laterally. And that's why Miami, Florida State, Auburn, SEC, ACC, all over the country have offered this young man. He confirmed with me that Florida State and Miami will probably be two of his officials. It's still a long way to go, but those are two of them. He was recently visited by Norvell at the school, and that's, you know what, that's just another sign that Florida State's really trying to get involved. They're really pushing the 25s and doing a good job, quite honestly. But this is one of the kids you got to get after. You can never have enough pure offensive tackles, and Zaire Addison can play left. Never have enough of those for sure. So outside of quarterback, that's probably the hardest position to get because it's so hard to evaluate those spots. But his athleticism makes it pretty easy. It doesn't take much to figure out he can play left tackle. Next up, Myron Charles out of Port Charlotte. That is a kid that when he walks up or walks by you, you're like, you can tell he's a player. I'd seen him last year at Under Armour. Port Charlotte's not a school that has a lot of kids normally. It's just a little bit north of Fort Myers, but I'm sure he's going to have scouts from all over. 6'4", 295, and to put it in perspective, Georgia's offered, Florida State, Miami. You know, he's an elite kid. I think he can be as good as he wants. I knew he was a power plugger kind of guy, but he's improved his technique. I got a couple of reps that I put up recently on this Locked On Seminoles podcast on a short, just 2 reps. But his first step for a guy that's 290, 295 is not normal. Myron has the ability to be as good as he wants to be. Again, he's not playing at a school he's going to get a ton of attention per se, but the offers say what they are. It's a school that's normally pretty mediocre in terms of football, but they're going to be dudes all over there. You know, Georgia doesn't just offer kids randomly. Florida State doesn't just offer kids randomly at defensive tackle. This kid has Sunday ability because pass rushers on the interior are as rare as it gets. That's not even really a category. There's so few of them. The only thing might be rare is a pure zero technique. And he could probably play that too, but he's so athletic. I'd rather play him at 3 technique personally. Shoot a gap. He's, even though at 290, 295, Myron can get up the field and make some plays. So I don't know where he's going to go. Florida State's in the mix along with numerous other programs, but that's a kid that everybody needs to know about. Just watching him at the tournament. I didn't interview him. I didn't get a chance, but he is really, really athletic and quite honestly, one of the better players that I've seen. Moving on to a couple of kids I just want to mention from the class of 26, 2 of the best players and 2 kids that Florida State and everybody, if they haven't offered, they will. But Aiden Hull, arguably the best class of 26 player in Louisiana, definitely one of the top 5 or so. He's at Edna Carr, which is one of the tradition-rich programs in New Orleans. Free safety. I met him at Battle Miami. He has a Florida State offer. It was the second school he mentioned to me. He looks like he's 20 years old already. He's got 2 years of high school left. Free safety, 180 pounds, 190 pounds, something like that. Can run like a deer, change directions. He's over 6 foot and really good kid. This is one of the guys that I know that Cox, the guy that runs the DBs for the Under Armour camps, mentioned to me It's a kid that's going to be a big-time player out of New Orleans, and one of my other buddies told me too. I think Florida State and everybody's going to go after him. He can pick his school. It's somebody that everybody should be aware of. The other one, not in as big a town, that's for sure, but one that is a big player and is a national recruit already is J. Raylan McCoy out of Tupelo High School in Mississippi. He's ranked by 247, just for the record, as the number one player in the class of 26 in the state of Mississippi, 6'6", 250 during the one-on-one drills at the 5-on-5 tournament as a defensive end, just dominated. His arms are so long, guys couldn't get to him, and there was one play you're not really supposed to, but he just bull rushed and just threw this guy to the ground, ran over him. Had another play where he dipped his shoulder despite being like a power end and went around him and just completely dominated. I think he has as high a ceiling as any player in 26 because, again, you could never have enough defensive linemen. That's just never going to go out of style. And I think he could play some 3 technique in time. Again, he's got 2 years of high school left. Jay Raylan is a player that could end up being possibly 270, 275 when he leaves, be strong side, 3 technique, maybe a swing player, if you will. Those guys are very, very valuable. And it's important for them to get on the field and do different things at this age to learn all that stuff. But he's got some hand movement. He's got some moves. He's not just a long arm guy or just a speed rush. He showed some other abilities as well. Florida State and everybody's going to recruit. He's already got several Power Fives, LSU, Ole Miss, etc. Look for Florida State with all their ties to that staff that was at Memphis that the Norvell had. They're going to recruit this kid hard. Look for his name to be there again. McCoy, he's going to easily be a top 50 player. And again, it's J. Raylan McCoy out of Tupelo High School. Thank you once again for making this your first listen each and every day. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and share this podcast. I'll be back with more updates. I'm still going through tons of video and photos from this weekend. This is just a snippet, to be honest with you, on what happened this weekend. I got so many photos and videos to go through. It's not even funny, but I just wanted to kind of drop some of the information that I had and bring it to your attention. So everybody, please have a great day, and thank you very much.